New World Order, Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. If you haven't heard, there were Easter Sunday bombings all throughout the nation of Sri Lanka, known as a vacation resort for many. This is many on the mainland of America. Now, this series of bombings actually took out almost nearly 300 people and injured over 500 people. Now, we're talking about bombs at churches and in and around the Sri Lanka capital, known as Colombo. They were also found at other places, Catholic churches. It seemed like a target against Catholics and Christians, as well as an attack possibly on trying to get to some government officials. Apparently government officials knew about this in the telecommunications department, but 10 days prior was sending warnings about a possible attack, but it wasn't heeded to. And now there's a nationwide curfew for 21 million people and shutdowns of social media sites. So we'll see what happens. The responsibility seemed to go to the National Tawheed Jamaat, an Islamic extremist group. Green Wall and graduation. We'll go to Bishop Grady, lay on what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Now, House Committee Chair Gerald Nadler is actually calling for, has actually subpoenaed the Justice Department to actually hand over an unredacted version of the Robert Mueller report. Now, for those who don't know, the Robert Mueller report, he's actually he was the special counsel of the FBI that led a bulldog investigation into looking into the Trump administration and the crimes they were committing. That's why so many people ended up with these cases, you know what I'm saying? In some instances, ending up with jail time and fines to pay and whatnot. Many cases, them getting grilled by a Senate. So he's responsible for that now. And this was all done to see if there was collusion between the Trump administration and Russia and trying to sway the 2016 presidential election outcome. And it was concluded that there was no collusion. The obstruction of justice portion of it was shaky, but a redacted version was actually released this past week, and people ain't buying it, and they still say it leads to there being a lot of questions. So we'll see what happens. Green Wall and graduate. We'll do the Bishop Grady lay on what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Now, I've been telling y'all that these peace talks happening in Afghanistan between the Taliban and U.S. government and all of that, it's all political fodder. It's all to make you think something good is really around the corner, or that they actually making some sort of progress. But basically, those peace talks have come to an end with pretty much with no direction, no plan of action. And furthermore, there's still violence going on over there. Now, in the capital of Kabul, at the Ministry of Communications building, there was actually a suicide bomb. It killed 10 people, and they actually trapped thousands of people inside of this building, while forces had to actually battle with the assailants. Now, the assailants, the attackers or whatever, they were the self-proclaimed Islamic State group. You know what I'm saying? IS or ISIS or whatever, as they like to call them all. So we'll see, what happens. It seems like business as usual. Green Wall and graduation. For the New World Order, Bishop Grady laying on what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Now, I knew there was something funny about this shit, but basically the Libyan National Army, the renegade army that's been duking it out with the government of National Accord, which is the United Nations-backed government set up in Libya. This ongoing fighting has actually caused 30,000 people to be displaced. Quite a few people, hundreds of people have actually been murdered. I think 211 people murdered so far with the infighting. The LNA, the Libyan National Army, is actually led by General Khalifa Haftar. I believe his last name definitely Haftar, where this person has actually had dual citizenship in the U.S. and in Libya. That was always a point of interest to me, but now it's understood that this person used to be a CIA asset in the U.S. So it just sounds like more white imperialism, them trying to secure resources of Africa again, because Libya is an oil-rich nation, no doubt about it. We'll see how this continues to pan out, man. Green Wall and graduate. The New World Order, Bishop Grady laying on what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So I've been telling y'all what's going on over in Algeria, where President Abdelaziz Bouteflika actually had resigned from his seat as president of the country, and in doing so, he did so amid a bunch of protesting, and now there's hundreds of thousands of people protesting, as in on Friday when this happened, at the Capitol, where they want an entire regime change because as a result of the president stepping down, the government had put like an interim rule in place, and the people don't even want that. They want no parts of this shit. Now, Bouteflika Manju, he actually resigned. The dude had not been seen in public for years. He's just really old, and he served a very long presidency. And he was actually, they were worried about him even running for president in this summer or whatever. And he even said he wasn't going to do that, and they still wanted him out there, so he resigned. The military is promising for there to be elections this July 4th, but shoot, they don't even want them to make that decision. Green Wall and graduation though. We'll do the Bishop Grady laying out what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Over in Morocco, Africa, actually, there were 42 jailed activists that were pretty much given sentences of up to 20 years for activism. Now, there's been a bunch of protests that were actually done over the weekend where they were, we're talking about thousands of people that are in an uproar about them jailing these 42 activists, and then it being said that they could still be sentenced up to 20 years for activism at the end of the day. This is going on, the protesting was going on in the capital city of Rabat, and at the end of the day, this is looked at as an attack on political freedom and political prisoners, and it's not being taken lightly. So, shouts out to the movement over there. Since the sentencing a couple weeks ago, where they were given up, where these sentences were upheld, the activists have actually been on hunger strikes. So, we'll see how this pans out, man. Green Wall and graduation. The New World Order Bishop Grady laying out what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Now, I told y'all that raucous that's happening over in Sudan, where in this past month, the president of Sudan, Omar al-Bashir, was actually ousted. You can even call it a military coup if you want, but protesters, civilians have actually been protesting since December. And even since December, you're talking about dozens of people being murdered, dozens of protesters being murdered. You know what I'm saying? This is not in gunfire, this is just for protesting. Nevertheless, they finally got him the fuck up out of there thanks to the Sudanese military, and which actually ended up imprisoning him and then setting their own transitional council to get them through the next couple of years. But the people weren't having that either. So instead, what they did, the people have still been sitting there and protesting at the capital of Sudan, and basically have ended talks with the military council. They basically want a whole new regime in as well. Now, keep in mind that the president, Omar al-Bashir, when they actually ransacked his home, they found 130 million cash. So he's now facing counts of not only war crimes, but possible money laundering as well. And he's in prison where he's been imprisoning people and assassinating people as well. See how God worked? Green Wall and graduation though. The New World Order Bishop Grady laying out what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Now, over in Ukraine, I thought this was interesting. A man by the name of Volodymyr Zelensky is actually a famous TV actor out there. He plays on this show called Servant of the People, where he plays a president. Now, the kicker of this story is, in real life, he actually just won the national election out there in the Ukraine over current incumbent president Petro Poroshenko, I believe that's his name. But nevertheless, this dude plays somebody that, like his TV show title says, claims to be a servant of the people. He's talking about, stopping the fighting against pro-Russian separatists, and which is a conflict that's actually been, plaguing that area since 2014. There's actually been 13,000 people killed as a result. So don't think they're not banging over there. But nevertheless, this is looked at as a pretty big deal. Now, on the show, he actually plays somebody that resigns after going head-to-head with the IMF. In real life, he already said that he's planning to cooperate with them, even though they're exchanging multi-billion-dollar loans for some unfavorable austerity programs. So, with austerity meaning they want control a little bit. You know what I'm saying? We'll see how this pans out, though. Green Wall and graduation. The New World Order Bishop Grady laying out what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So over in France, actually, them yellow jacket protesters have actually hit their 23rd week in a row of protesting, basically against the economic choices that the President Macron and the regime there has actually been making. They feel like they're underpaid, and with this latest burning of the Notre Dame building, and wealthy donors coming in to actually donate millions and billions of dollars towards that evil looking infrastructure. This has actually been something that's looked at as how is they gonna allow all this money to go towards the fucking dome, but we the people can't even get it. So there was riots breaking out over that this weekend. On Saturday, talking about thousands of yellow vest protesters had to be broken up, dispersed with water cannons and tear gas. Now, keep in mind, the president already kind of outlawed the yellow vests from even being out there, definitely in specific areas, but they don't give a fuck. They on it, man. Revolutionary talk, man. Stay tuned, though. Green Wall and graduation. The new world order, Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Now, I told y'all about what was going on as far as like the yellow vest protests out there that hit a 23-week stride this past weekend. And well, also there were over 2,000 climate activists that actually got together and formed a blockade in the name of civil disobedience right outside of Paris. And this was designed to bring awareness. First off, stop the environment ministry from forming, but also to bring awareness to the government that they're not with their complicity with the fossil fuel industry, essentially. I mean, you have their state oil company, Total, for example, that's pretty successful, and the blockade essentially successfully affected them. Also, the bank that tends to fund them, Society General, I think, or something like that, something in French. And also the state-run electricity company that actually runs off of nuclear power. So it was looked at as very necessary, and we'll see how this pans out, though. Green Wall and graduation. We'll go to Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So over in London, actually, at the Parliament Square and at the Oxford Circus shopping area, Extinction Rebellion protesters have been cleared out from the area. So let me tell y'all about the Extinction Rebellion protesters. They actually are climate activists that have been putting pressure on the government out there in the UK to basically do something about this climate change, hence the name Extinction Rebellion. They even have a branch over here in America that's actually been putting in some activism work. But nonetheless, that so far since these protests have started, there have been thousands of arrests, including the ones that have taken place in recent days. So that's what's happening now in London. The leader of this group, well, one member, 16-year-old, she actually got to meet with the Pope, essentially, due to the noise that they were making. And mind you, Extinction Rebellion, they even got protesters out here, and they were actually in New York last week and there was like dozens of arrests made. So they're not playing, and we shouldn't be either. Green Wall and graduation. The new world order, Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Now, if you at the border, you need to watch out for these rogue pro-Trump white nationalist motherfuckers, because a man by the name of Larry Mitchell Hopkins, 69-year-old with mad guns, actually has been leading a militia called the United Constitutional Group, that's been pointed out by the American Civil Liberties Union as a threat, because they basically been going towards the border, going to like New Mexico and Texas, El Paso and all of that, them areas, and have been rounding up migrants, holding them at gunpoint, detaining them, which is a kidnapping charge or whatever, and have been coordinating with U.S. Border Patrol agents to detain these migrants that they've been finding crossing into the country at non-official ports of entry. Now, this has been done at, of course, Trump. Of course, Trump is to blame for this, because he's been advocating this type of behavior. And let me tell you to what extent. These motherfuckers was actually filming this shit and posting it on social media. Now, unlike the self-snitching culture that our folks have, with, motherfuckers is doing it for $1 million deal at the end or whatever. These motherfuckers is doing it to appease Donald Trump. Green Wall and graduation, ain't that some shit? We'll do the Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Now, shame on motherfucking Matt Shea. This is a representative from Washington State that actually was found. It was exposed by an article in The Guardian for having conspired with other far-right, pro-Trump motherfuckers to actually even go so far as surveilling and committing violence against anti-fascist protesters or people that are against him and his movement. Over in Spokane, actually, they were even planning to, there was a chat that was exposed that even showed him planning with other far-right group motherfuckers, including Jack Robinson, a prominent far-right radio host out there, that planning with them to essentially like spy on these people. And even when there were things that were said in this chat room that suggested violence, taking one of the prominent women activists and cutting her hair and, you know, cutting a ball with a field knife and all of that, whatever. None of this shit was objective. So now he's being shown as being that, and the governor is asking for him to resign. Green wall and graduation. Order of the New World Order, Bishop Grady Lay. I know what the fuck going on for this BFN report, man. I told y'all about those 31,000 Stop and Shop workers up in New England that were actually protesting against for better wages and better benefits. Well, they went on strike for 10 days. That's symbolic shit. And that's a lot of people, a lot of coordination going on, and their demands were met. You know what I mean? So they got the increased pay that they were looking for, and their health care benefits and their pension benefits are intact. So salute to everybody that participated in that, man. And it lets you know, man, demonstration, you know what I'm saying, like protests and all of that, I mean, it does make a difference. It might not be the difference that we would be looking for, because let's be real, the motherfuckers is definitely underpaid still, but nevertheless, imagine if they didn't said nothing, they would still be stuck in a slave position, more of a slavery position than they were earlier, before the 10-day strike. So salute to them. Green wall and graduation.